I always think it is expensive to dine in Japanese restaurants for deep-fried pork chop. Yes, the pork chop they made are really delicious. Why not making one at home ourselves? It's not always necessary to use deluxe grade of pork. The inexpensive pork could also achieve the amazing result.
The birds fly south as the light leaves your eyes.
The ingredients are simple. You can receive the best result for pork chop by following my cooking steps and tips. Let's handle the cabbage for salad first. Thinly slice the cabbage by the knife until the size is like this. After handling the salad, we should handle the raw meat now. We can choose different parts like pork collar, pork loin, pork chop. I use pork chop this time. Don't misunderstand that thick cut is always the best. Honestly, I strongly think that thin cut is a better choice for deep frying. This pork chop is from Denmark. Using Hong Kong local pork is also desirable. Pork from Thailand is good too. Wherever the pork's from, we need to beat the meat by using the back of the knife or meat pounder. Be patient and beat the pork until the fiber of the meat breaks. Then the meat will become very tender. Make 4 cuts at the edge of the pork chop. This can avoid the shrinkage and curl of the pork when frying and keep the pork flat. Keep beating until the pork chop gets thinner and bigger. It's a good standard when it's getting bigger than 1/3 of its original size. The marinade is simple. Just sprinkle salt and black pepper on both sides will be fine. Set aside and marinate for a while. It is time to mix the miso sauce when marinating the meat. It includes mirin, sake, Dashi sauce, water. This is Hatcho Miso. This miso's color is much darker than the other miso, and the taste is stronger too. We need to add more sugar for seasoning. Simmer in low heat. After it melts, thicken the sauce with corn flour water. When the sauce is ready, we can start to cook the pork now. Cover the pork chop with a thin layer of plain flour. The flour helps to absorb the extra moisture from the pork. It makes the dipping of the egg easier too. Dip both sides with the egg. Put the pork chop on the breadcrumb. Cover it well. You can deep fry the pork right away. However, if you desire a more golden and crispy deep fried pork chop, I have a very good tip to share to you. It is to double the steps of dipping eggs and breadcrumbs. Don't worry, the layer will not be over thick. It makes the crispiness more long-lasting and more good-looking. This time, I will press the breadcrumb tightly on the surface of the pork chop. Put the pork chop into the preheated oil at 160 to 170 degrees Celsius. Make sure the oil is hot enough for deep frying, otherwise the breadcrumb and egg will absorb the oil. The pork chop then will become very heavy and oily. When you see the pork is floating, we can take the pork out. Heat the oil to 170 to 180 degrees Celsius this time. Put the pork to the oil to deep fry for the second time. Make sure the oil is really hot so that the moisture of the pork from the first time frying can be released out. Look, the pork is perfectly done. It's really crispy with beautiful golden color. You realize this crispiness by just hearing the cutting sound. Serving this with a bowl of rice is absolutely wonderful. It is not done yet. We should pour the sake miso sauce over the pork. The flavor and richness of the sauce paired to this crispy, tender, and lovely deep-fried pork chop. Don't envy me. I'm going to eat now. is amazingly delicious. The normal grade of pork chop is good enough to create such Japanese delicacy. Crispy, beautiful golden color, soft and tender. If you are willing to pay attention to the cooking details, I am sure you can cook the perfect texture of pork chop just as I did. Lots of people ask me how to cook the pork chop in a tender texture. They complain that the pork chop always turns rough and hard to chew after cooking. One of the tips is, don't be lazy. What I mean is, you have to beat the pork chop before cooking. No matter where the pork came from, we should use the meat pounder or back of the knife to beat the pork chop until it becomes 1/3 larger than the original size. Seasoning is simple. Just salt, white or black pepper, or light soy sauce are good enough. Don't misunderstand that you need not do anything on marinations or handling method for a premium grade of pork. Even if it is the expensive one like from Spain, USA and Canada, or the more common one like from Denmark, the same marinations and handling method can also be applied. Some people ask me whether the thick cut or thin cut is preferable. Both will do. However, for my personal opinion, I prefer thin cut for deep frying, because it's easy to beat and helps to save you effort and time. The other point is, it's easy to get tender texture and it's easy to deep fry too. If you insist using thick cut, there are much more work to do. One of the ways is to slow cook the meat first before frying. You can use 70 degrees Celsius to slow cook the meat for an hour first, or you can soak the pork chop in salt water overnight. The third way is to mix and squeeze the slice of celery, carrot, and onion. Use these 3 vegetable slices and juice to marinate the meat for a day. However, I still prefer using the knife back and meat pounder to beat the pork. It's easier for me. You realize that I repeat the steps of dipping the egg and breadcrumbs before frying. Yes, it is a very clever method that I really want to mention, which makes the pork chop attractive golden color, long-lasting crispiness, and looks much bigger. However, don't dip the flour for the second time. The surface of the pork chop will be bulged up when frying. The layer will be too thick that it will affect the result. The control of temperature is crucial for deep frying. The oil temperature should reach to 170 degrees Celsius when start frying. Turn to medium-low heat afterwards. Try to keep a steady temperature, then you will get a very good result. If the oil is not hot enough, the flour, breadcrumbs, and egg will absorb the oil. The pork will be getting so heavy and oily, I'm sure you will not like it. If the oil is overheated, the breadcrumbs will be burnt easily. The meat is still raw inside. You will find it is very frustrating to do the second time frying. The second time frying is very important too, since there are some moisture produced from the pork during the first time frying. The purpose of the second time frying is to remove those moisture using the high heat oil in order to make the pork chop more crunchy and long-lasting. Therefore, if you follow through all the steps I mentioned, I'm sure you will get the perfect deep fried pork chop. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, share, and like my channel. I will have more of my recipes shared to you.